They laughed at the black girl until a rich rancher held her hand, their cruel voices echoing across the dusty town square as the lone figure stepped down from the stagecoach, clutching worn papers against her chest. The townsfolk see only another drifter seeking scraps, destined to vanish like tumbleweeds across the plains. Their scorn burns hot as desert sun, assuming she'll crawl away broken within days. But behind the embroidered curtains of a gleaming carriage, the wealthy cattleman watches with calculating eyes, recognizing something the others missed entirely. What neither the laughing crowd nor the mysterious rancher knows is that hidden in those weathered documents lies the power to destroy everything they've built. The girl's trembling hands don't hold pleas for mercy. They hold dynamite wrapped in legal paper. Will their unexpected alliance unleash salvation or catastrophe upon this unforgiving frontier town? Before we continue, comment where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will publish a story there. The dust cloud settled around Sarah May's boots as she stepped onto the wooden platform. Copper Ridge stretched before her like a collection of weathered bones under the Wyoming sun. Her fingers tightened around the leather satchel containing everything that mattered. Whispers started immediately. Women pulled their children closer. Men spat into the dirt and turned away. The stagecoach driver tossed her single trunk to the ground without ceremony and climbed back onto his seat. "Another one looking for handouts," someone muttered. Sarah May straightened her shoulders and walked toward the main street. Her worn dress had seen better days, but her posture remained proud. She had traveled 300 miles for this moment. The general store's bell chimed as she pushed through the door. Conversations died. The shopkeeper, a thin man with suspicious eyes, looked up from his ledger. "We don't hire kitchen help," he said before she could speak. "I'm not seeking employment." Her educated speech caught him off guard. His eyebrows rose, but his expression remained cold. "Then you're in the wrong place. Try the church. They feed the needy on Sundays." Heat rose in Sarah May's cheeks, but she kept her voice steady. "I need supplies for land development." The man laughed. Other customers joined in. The sound echoed off the wooden walls like gunshots. "Land development," he repeated. "You hear that, folks? Land development." Sarah May left without another word. The laughter followed her onto the street. She tried the blacksmith next, then the feed store. Each encounter brought the same dismissive treatment. Word spread quickly through the small town. The strange girl with big ideas became the afternoon's entertainment. Tommy Finch watched from behind the saloon's batwing doors. As the town's bartender, he heard everything and saw more. This woman carried herself differently. Her speech, her bearing, even the way she studied the buildings suggested education, breeding, something the others missed entirely. The crowd grew larger as Sarah May made her way toward the land office. Cruel smiles and pointing fingers followed her progress. Children mimicked her walk. Adults made jokes about dreams too big for reality. Maud Ellison emerged from the millinery shop like a queen greeting subjects. Her expensive dress and perfectly arranged hair commanded immediate attention. She surveyed the scene with calculating eyes. "What's this commotion?" Maud's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Just some girl with fancy notions," the shopkeeper explained. "Talking about land development." Maud's expression hardened. This town has no place for drifters with delusions. Perhaps someone should explain reality to her. The crowd murmured agreement. Maud's word was law in Copper Ridge. Her family owned half the businesses and most of the prime grazing land. What Maud wanted, Maud got. Sarah May reached the land office steps. The wooden sign creaked in the wind. This was the moment she had traveled so far to reach. She pulled the folded documents from her satchel and smoothed them with trembling fingers. The land office clerk, a nervous man named Peters, glanced at the growing crowd through his window. He recognized the signs of potential trouble. When Sarah May entered his office, he barely looked up from his desk. "Office is closed," he lied. "Your sign says open until 5 o'clock." Peters finally raised his head. The sight of Sarah May standing in his office with official-looking papers made him uncomfortable. He glanced toward the window where faces pressed against the glass. I don't have time for games. Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying. I'm not selling anything. I need to file these inheritance documents. The word inheritance hung in the air like smoke. Peters laughed, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Inheritance? Girl, you better take those fairy tales somewhere else. Outside, the crowd pressed closer to the windows. Their laughter grew louder. Sarah May felt the weight of their ridicule, but she had come too far to quit now. She placed the documents on Peter's desk. These are legal papers. I demand you review them properly. Peters glanced at the papers without touching them. I don't need to review anything. Now get out before I call the sheriff. The office door opened. The crowd's laughter died suddenly. Expensive boots clicked across the wooden floor. Sarah May turned to see a tall man in a tailored coat. His presence filled the small room. Silas Boone commanded respect through wealth and reputation. His cattle ranch stretched across thousands of acres. His word carried weight that even Maud Ellison couldn't ignore. He studied the scene with intelligent eyes. Problem here. Peters? The clerk straightened in his chair. No, sir, Mr. Boone. Just explaining to this girl that we don't have time for games. Silas looked at Sarah May, then at the documents on the desk. Something in her bearing caught his attention. The same quality Tommy Finch had noticed. This was no ordinary drifter. What kind of games? Silas asked. She claims to have inheritance papers, talking nonsense about land development. Silas extended his hand toward Sarah May. The gesture shocked everyone in the room. A wealthy white rancher offering assistance to a young black woman challenged every social rule they knew. May I see these documents? Sarah May hesitated, then placed the papers in his hands. Their fingers touched briefly. Outside, the crowd fell silent. The moment stretched like a held breath. Silas examined the documents carefully. His expression changed as he read. These weren't the desperate forgeries of a desperate woman. These were genuine legal papers, notarized, official, real. He looked up at Sarah May with new understanding. These appear legitimate, Peters. I suggest you do your job properly. The stakes had just changed completely. Peters fumbled for his glasses as Silas spread the documents across the desk. The crowd outside pressed harder against the windows. Their laughter had died completely. Something important was happening inside that small office. Sarah May watched Silas read each page carefully. His eyebrows rose as he examined official seals and notary stamps. These weren't crude forgeries. Every signature, every date, every legal phrase appeared genuine. Where did you get these? Silas asked quietly. From my father, William Crawford. The name hit the room like thunder. Peters dropped his glasses. Even Silas straightened in surprise. Everyone in Wyoming Territory knew that name. William Crawford had owned some of the finest ranch land in the valley before his death 2 years ago. William Crawford had no children, Peters stammered. Sarah May's voice remained steady despite her racing heart. He had one. Me. Silas studied her face with new eyes. Now he could see it. The strong jawline, the intelligent eyes, the confident bearing that suggested breeding and education. Features that might belong to William Crawford's daughter. The office door burst open. Maud Ellison swept inside with the force of a prairie storm. Her face was pale, but determined. She had watched the scene unfold through the window and recognized danger when she saw it. What ridiculous nonsense is this? Maud demanded. Silas handed her the inheritance papers without a word. Maud's hands shook as she read. Her face grew paler with each line. These documents threatened everything she had worked toward, everything she had planned. Forgeries, Maud declared. Obviously forged. The notary seals appear authentic, Silas observed. Anyone can fake a seal. William Crawford never mentioned a daughter to anyone in this town. Sarah May had expected this reaction. She reached into her satchel and withdrew a small leather journal. The cover was worn smooth by countless hands. She opened it to a specific page and placed it on the desk. William Crawford's handwriting filled the pages. His distinctive style was unmistakable to anyone who had seen his signature on business documents. The journal entries spoke of teaching his daughter about cattle ranching, water rights, and land management. "He kept me secret to protect me," Sarah May said. "But he never stopped being my father." Silas read several entries aloud. They described a young woman of remarkable intelligence who understood irrigation systems and soil composition better than most experienced ranchers. William had been proud of his daughter's abilities. The memories flooded back as Sarah May remembered those precious lessons. Her father had taught her everything in stolen moments away from prying eyes. They would ride to remote corners of his property, where he showed her how to read the land itself. "Water always tells the truth," William had said. "Follow the water, and you'll find the best grazing land." He had taught her to recognize different grass types and their nutritional value, how to identify the best spots for wells, which areas would flood in spring and which would stay dry during droughts. Knowledge that took most ranchers decades to acquire. "Your mind is your greatest weapon," he had told her. "Learn everything. Remember everything. Someday you'll need every advantage you can get." Those lessons had prepared her for this moment. Sarah May understood that owning land meant nothing without the knowledge to make it productive. Her father had given her both the inheritance and the wisdom to use it. Peters examined the journal with shaking hands. The handwriting matched William Crawford's signature on dozens of legal documents filed in his office. The dates corresponded with gaps in Crawford's social schedule that had puzzled the town. "This proves nothing," Maud insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. "It proves enough," Silas said firmly. "These documents deserve proper legal review." He turned to Sarah May with respect she hadn't received from anyone else in town. "Exactly how much land are we discussing?" Sarah May unfolded a detailed map from her satchel. Red lines marked property boundaries across 500 acres of prime valley land. The territory included the best water sources and most fertile soil in the region. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of the claim. 500 acres represented serious wealth, real power, the kind of holding that could change the entire balance of influence in Copper Ridge. Maud studied the map with growing horror. Those boundaries encompassed land she desperately needed for her own plans, land she had already promised to others in secret negotiations. This inheritance threatened to destroy arrangements worth thousands of dollars. "Even if these papers were genuine," Maud said carefully, "a young woman couldn't possibly manage such a property alone." "She won't be alone," Silas said. Every eye in the room turned to him. Outside, the crowd strained to hear through the glass. Tommy Finch had joined them, his bartender's instincts telling him this moment would be discussed for years. Silas looked directly at Sarah May. "I'd like to propose a partnership, your land rights combined with my resources and experience. We could develop that property into something remarkable." Sarah May studied his face carefully. Her father had taught her to evaluate potential business partners by their actions, not their words. Silas had defended her when everyone else showed only contempt. He had examined her documents fairly when others refused to look. "What kind of partnership?" she asked. "Equal partners. You provide the land and knowledge. I provide capital and equipment. We split all profits 50-50. The offer stunned everyone present. Equal partnerships between men and women were rare. Equal partnerships across racial lines were almost unheard of. Silas was proposing something revolutionary. Maud's face flushed with anger. "This is madness. The whole idea is preposterous." But Sarah May extended her hand to Silas. "I accept your proposal, Mr. Boone." Their handshake sealed an alliance that would change everything. The handshake that sealed their partnership sent shockwaves through the crowd. Word spread through Copper Ridge faster than wildfire. By evening, every household buzzed with news of the unprecedented alliance between the wealthy rancher and William Crawford's secret daughter. Sarah May and Silas rode out to survey the inherited land at dawn. The morning mist clung to the valley floor as they reached the property boundaries. Sarah May dismounted and knelt beside a small creek running through the eastern pasture. "This water source connects to 3 others upstream," she explained, tracing invisible lines across the landscape. My father showed me how they all feed into the main irrigation system. Silas watched her examine the soil composition and grass quality with practiced eyes. Her knowledge impressed him. Most ranchers took years to understand water flow patterns and soil drainage. Sarah May moved across the terrain like someone reading a familiar book. She pointed toward a gentle slope near the creek. That ridge would be perfect for the main house, high enough to avoid flood risk, close enough to the water source for easy access. Your father taught you well. Sarah May smiled at the memory. Those secret lessons had been the happiest moments of her childhood. William Crawford had been a demanding teacher, but a loving father. He insisted she learn not just what to do, but why each decision mattered. Knowledge is power, he had told her repeatedly. But applied knowledge is wealth. The flashback came clearly now. She was 12 years old, sitting beside her father on this same ridge. He had drawn diagrams in the dirt, showing her how water moved across different types of soil, how the angle of slopes affected drainage, why certain areas stayed green during dry seasons while others withered. See that line of cottonwood trees? William had pointed east. They mark the underground water table. Plant crops along that line, and you'll have reliable irrigation even in drought years. He had taught her to read weather patterns by watching cloud formations and wind direction, how to predict rainfall by observing animal behavior, which plants indicated rich soil and which warned of poor drainage. Most ranchers rely on luck and tradition, William had explained. Smart ranchers rely on science and observation. Now Sarah May applied those lessons as she and Silas planned their partnership. She sketched detailed irrigation maps on paper, showing how they could triple the land's productivity with proper water management. Her designs impressed Silas with their sophistication and practical understanding. We'll need to invest in proper equipment, Silas said, studying her plans. New plows, irrigation pipes, quality seed stock. I understand the financial commitment. My father explained the economics of land development. They rode back to town as the sun reached its peak. The streets seemed quieter than usual. Fewer people made eye contact. The social dynamics had shifted overnight. Sarah May was no longer a powerless outsider. She was a landowner with a powerful ally. Tommy Finch observed the change from his position behind the bar. Conversations died when Sarah May's name was mentioned. Some folks seemed genuinely curious about the partnership. Others appeared resentful or afraid. The town was dividing into camps. People don't know what to think, Tommy told Silas during his evening visit. Half think you've lost your mind. The other half are wondering what you know that they don't. Silas ordered his usual whiskey and considered the situation. His decision to partner with Sarah May would cost him some relationships. Several business associates had already expressed disapproval, but something about her knowledge and determination convinced him this partnership would prove profitable. What do you think, Tommy? I think that woman knows more about ranching than most men in this territory. Watched her examine that land today like she was reading a map. That kind of understanding doesn't come from books. Meanwhile, Maud Ellison paced her parlor like a caged animal. The inheritance documents had been verified. The partnership was legal. Her carefully laid plans were crumbling before her eyes. She had spent months negotiating with outside investors, mining companies interested in the valley's mineral rights, development firms planning to build railroad connections through the territory. All of those deals depended on her ability to control key pieces of land. Sarah May's property sat directly in the path of the proposed railroad route. Without access to that land, the entire development project would collapse. Millions of dollars in potential profits hung in the balance. Maud had already accepted advance payments from several investors, money she had quietly redirected into her own accounts. If the deals fell through, those investors would demand answers and repayment. Her financial house of cards would collapse spectacularly. The pressure was building from multiple directions. Secret meetings in her private study grew more frequent. Telegrams arrived at odd hours. Men in expensive suits asked pointed questions about land acquisition timelines. Sarah May and Silas remained unaware of these hidden stakes as they finalized their partnership agreements. They focused on practical matters like crop rotation schedules and livestock purchasing plans. Their collaboration grew stronger as they discovered how well their different strengths complemented each other. Sarah May provided the agricultural knowledge and innovative thinking. Silas contributed capital resources and business connections. Together, they created something neither could have achieved alone. But their success attracted unwanted attention. Strange men began asking questions around town about water rights and mineral claims. Local businesses reported unusual pressure to sell their properties quickly. Someone was orchestrating a larger game behind the scenes. Tommy noticed the subtle changes first. New faces in his saloon who asked too many questions. Conversations that stopped abruptly when he approached. Money changing hands in corners where people thought no one was watching. The partnership between Sarah May and Silas had triggered something bigger than either of them realized. Their alliance threatened interests that reached far beyond Copper Ridge. Forces were mobilizing to stop them before their success could inspire others. The real battle was just beginning. The first signs of trouble appeared on a Tuesday morning. Sarah May rode out to check on their newly planted fields and found 20 feet of fencing cut clean through. The wooden posts lay scattered across the ground like broken teeth. Silas arrived within the hour, his face grim as he surveyed the damage. This wasn't random vandalism. Someone had used proper wire cutters and knew exactly where to strike for maximum impact. The destroyed section allowed cattle from neighboring ranches to wander into their crops. Professional work, Silas observed, examining the cut ends. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. They spent the morning repairing the fence, but worse discoveries awaited them. The irrigation channel that fed their eastern pasture had been mysteriously redirected overnight. Someone had built a crude dam upstream, diverting the water flow away from their property. Sarah May knelt beside the dried creek bed where water should have been flowing. Her father's lessons echoed in her memory. He had warned her about water theft and taught her to recognize the signs. This was deliberate sabotage designed to kill their crops during the crucial growing season. "We'll have to dig a new channel," she said, her voice steady despite her anger. "It'll cost us 2 weeks and half our planting schedule." The sabotage continued throughout the week. Supply deliveries mysteriously went missing. Tools disappeared from their work sites. Someone spread rumors in town that their partnership was failing, driving away potential workers who feared association with a doomed venture. Silas began losing business relationships as the pressure mounted. Long-standing customers canceled orders without explanation. His usual suppliers demanded payment in advance instead of extending credit. The social cost of supporting Sarah May was becoming financially painful. "Maybe we should reconsider this arrangement," suggested James Wheeler, one of Silas's oldest friends. "This partnership is damaging your reputation." But Silas had seen Sarah May's capabilities firsthand. Her innovative irrigation designs could revolutionize farming in the territory. Her understanding of soil management exceeded that of men with decades of experience. Abandoning the partnership now would waste an opportunity for genuine progress. "My reputation will survive," Silas replied. "Good business decisions always prove themselves eventually." The harassment escalated as their determination became clear. Someone poisoned their water supply, forcing them to haul fresh water from miles away. Mysterious fires started in their equipment shed, destroying expensive tools and seed supplies. Sarah May applied the analytical skills her father had taught her, tracking the timing and methods of each attack. The sabotage followed patterns that suggested coordination rather than random mischief. Someone was orchestrating a systematic campaign to drive them off the land. "These aren't pranks," she told Silas as they cataloged the latest damage. "Someone wants us to fail badly enough to risk criminal charges." They began taking shifts to guard their property at night. Sarah May proved surprisingly capable with a rifle, another skill her father had insisted she learn. Her steady aim and patient observation made her an effective sentinel during the dark hours when trouble usually struck. Tommy Finch provided crucial intelligence from his position at the saloon. His customers often drank too much and spoke too freely. He began noticing patterns in their conversations that confirmed Sarah May's suspicions. "There's more strangers in town than usual," Tommy reported during one of Silas's evening visits. "Men who ask lots of questions but don't give many answers. They're particularly interested in land ownership records and water rights." The connection between the harassment and these mysterious visitors became clearer as Tommy shared more observations. The strangers paid cash for everything and avoided leaving paper trails. They held private meetings with select townspeople, always in locations away from prying eyes. "Someone's organizing this," Tommy concluded. "The attacks on your property started right after those men arrived in town." Sarah May's crops suffered under the constant assault, but her partnership with Silas grew stronger through adversity. They developed efficient systems for rapid fence repair and water redirection. Their combined resources allowed them to absorb losses that would have destroyed either of them individually. The financial strain was becoming serious, however. Replacing stolen supplies and repairing damage consumed their operating capital faster than planned. Without successful crops this season, they would face debt that could force them to sell the land at a loss. Maud Ellison watched their struggles with barely concealed satisfaction. She made sympathetic comments in public while privately celebrating each setback. The pressure from her hidden partners was intensifying, and Sarah May's difficulties provided welcome relief. "Such a shame about all their bad luck," Maud commented to her friends over afternoon tea. "Perhaps they'll realize this venture was too ambitious." But Sarah May refused to surrender. Her father had taught her that successful ranchers endured hardships that defeated weaker competitors. Every challenge was an opportunity to prove her worthiness of the inheritance he had left her. She began connecting the dots between various incidents, creating a timeline that revealed the methodical nature of their persecution. The attacks weren't random acts of prejudice. Someone with significant resources was funding a coordinated effort to force them off the land. The question was why? What made their particular property so valuable that someone would risk criminal activity to obtain it? Sarah May suspected the answer lay in information her father might have discovered before his death. She began searching through William Crawford's personal papers, looking for clues about what made their land so strategically important. The irrigation rights were valuable, but not enough to justify the level of harassment they were experiencing. Something bigger was at stake, something worth destroying lives and reputations to obtain. The real enemy remained hidden, but their desperation was becoming obvious through the escalating attacks. The partnership had survived its first major test, but greater challenges lay ahead. Sarah May spent the following morning searching through her father's private desk in the small cabin where she had grown up. Hidden beneath false bottoms and tucked inside book covers, she discovered correspondence William Crawford had kept secret from everyone in town. The letters revealed a darker truth about Copper Ridge's future. Mining companies had been surveying the territory for months, seeking access to rich copper deposits discovered in the surrounding hills. The mineral rights could generate enormous wealth for whoever controlled the necessary land. More disturbing were the financial documents showing systematic embezzlement from the town development fund. Someone had been stealing money intended for schools and roads, redirecting it into private accounts. The amounts were staggering. Thousands of dollars had vanished over the past 2 years. Sarah May's hands trembled as she read a letter dated just weeks before her father's death. William Crawford had uncovered evidence of the embezzlement and planned to expose the theft at a public town meeting. He never got the chance. Always follow the money trail, her father had taught her during those secret lessons. Now she understood why those words had been so important. Following the money revealed corruption that reached the highest levels of local government. She rode to Silas's ranch immediately, carrying the evidence in her satchel. They spread the documents across his kitchen table as afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows. The scope of the conspiracy became clear as they examined each piece of correspondence. "These mining contracts are already signed," Silas observed, studying the legal paperwork. "Someone's been selling land rights they don't own." The contracts bore Maud Ellison's signature as the town's unofficial representative. She had negotiated deals worth thousands of dollars with outside companies, promising them access to mineral rights and water sources throughout the valley. Sarah May's property sat directly in the path of the proposed mining operation. Her water rights were essential for the industrial processes the companies planned to implement. Without her cooperation, the entire project would collapse. She's been stealing from the town to finance these secret negotiations, Sarah May realized. The development fund money went into her personal accounts. Tommy Finch had been watching Maud's activities from his unique position as the town's bartender. When Silas and Sarah May approached him with their evidence, he provided crucial additional details about the mysterious visitors and their private meetings. "Those men aren't just investors," Tommy explained. "They're advanced scouts for a mining consortium based in Denver. They've been mapping the entire territory for months." He had overheard conversations about railroad construction plans and industrial development that would transform the entire region. The peaceful farming community would be replaced by mining operations, factory complexes, and transportation hubs. Maud promised them complete control over water rights and mineral access, Tommy continued. "Your property is the keystone that holds her entire plan together." The three of them spent hours connecting the evidence into a complete picture of corruption. Maud had embezzled town funds to finance secret negotiations with mining companies. She had sold rights to land she didn't own, accepting advance payments that disappeared into her personal accounts. Sarah May remembered her father's business lessons as she analyzed the financial documents. William Crawford had taught her to identify fraudulent accounting practices and trace money through complex transactions. Those skills now revealed the full extent of Maud's criminal activities. "She's desperate because the mining companies are demanding results," Sarah May concluded. "If she can't deliver my property, they'll want their advance payments returned." The timeline explained everything. Maud's increasingly frantic efforts to drive them off the land coincided with deadlines in the mining contracts. The sabotage, harassment, and social pressure were all part of her desperate attempt to fulfill promises she couldn't keep legally. Silas studied a map showing the proposed mining sites and transportation routes. The industrial development would destroy the agricultural character of the entire valley. Farms would be replaced by mining pits. Streams would be polluted by chemical runoff. The community they knew would cease to exist. "She's selling the town's future for personal profit," he said grimly. Sarah May found additional evidence among her father's papers showing that William Crawford had tried to warn other landowners about Maud's schemes. His letters to neighbors explained the environmental dangers of large-scale mining operations and urged them to resist selling their property rights. "My father died trying to protect this place," Sarah May said quietly. "He knew what those mining operations would do to the land and water." The evidence painted a clear picture of betrayal and greed. Maud Ellison had violated the trust of everyone in Copper Ridge, stealing public funds and mortgaging their future for personal gain. The mining contracts would benefit only her and her outside partners, but confronting Maud directly would be dangerous. She had already demonstrated willingness to use illegal methods to protect her interests. Sarah May and Silas needed to expose her crimes publicly before she could take more drastic action. Tommy suggested they present their evidence at the next town meeting, scheduled for the following Saturday. The entire community would be present, including several county officials who had the authority to investigate embezzlement charges. "She'll fight back hard when she realizes we know the truth," Tommy warned. "Desperate people do desperate things." Sarah May secured the evidence in her father's old safe, the same place where he had hidden his will and her inheritance papers. She felt his presence guiding her as she prepared to finish the fight he had started. The confrontation would determine not just her own future, but the fate of the entire community. Everything depended on their ability to present the truth convincingly before Maud could silence them permanently. Saturday's town meeting would change everything. Saturday's town meeting drew the largest crowd in Copper Ridge's history. Every seat in the community hall was filled. People stood along the walls and pressed against the doorways. Word had spread that something important would be revealed, though most residents didn't know exactly what to expect. Maud Ellison entered the hall with her usual commanding presence. She wore her finest dress and carried herself like someone certain of victory. Her supporters occupied the front rows, ready to defend their leader against whatever accusations might come. Sarah May sat near the back with Silas and Tommy. The evidence was organized in her satchel, each document marked and ready for presentation. Her father's business training had taught her to prepare thoroughly for important meetings. Every fact would be presented clearly and logically. County Sheriff Morrison called the meeting to order. His presence added official weight to the proceedings. Whatever happened today would have legal consequences beyond simple town gossip. "We have serious allegations to address," Sheriff Morrison announced. "Miss Crawford has requested time to present evidence of criminal activity affecting this community." Maud's face remained composed, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped her purse. She had expected this moment eventually. Her only hope was to discredit Sarah May before the evidence could be properly examined. Sarah May walked to the front of the hall with steady steps. The same crowd that had mocked her arrival now watched with respectful attention. Her transformation from dismissed outsider to respected landowner had been remarkable to witness. "My father, William Crawford, discovered evidence of embezzlement before his death," Sarah May began. "Someone has been stealing from the town development fund for over 2 years." She placed the first set of documents on the table where everyone could see them. Bank records showed large withdrawals from the development fund that didn't match any authorized expenditures. The money had vanished without explanation or documentation. "These are serious accusations," Sheriff Morrison said, examining the financial records. "Do you have proof of who committed these thefts?" Sarah May produced the correspondence between Maud and the mining companies. The letters clearly showed Maud negotiating contracts and accepting advance payments for land rights she didn't legally control. "Mrs. Ellison has been selling our community's future to outside mining interests," Sarah May explained. "She embezzled town funds to finance these secret negotiations." Maud finally stood, her composure cracking under the weight of evidence. "These documents could be forged. This woman has every reason to lie about me." "The bank records are genuine," Sheriff Morrison observed. "Your signature appears on multiple withdrawal authorizations." Sarah May continued her methodical presentation. Mining contracts detailed plans to strip mine the entire valley. Chemical processing facilities would pollute the water supply. Railroad construction would destroy existing farms and ranches. "Mrs. Ellison sold rights to land belonging to all of us," Sarah May said. "She accepted payments totaling $15,000 for properties she doesn't own." The crowd murmured in shock at the enormous sum. $15,000 represented more money than most residents would see in their lifetimes. The scope of Maud's betrayal was staggering. Tommy stood to corroborate the evidence. "I witnessed multiple meetings between Mrs. Ellison and mining company representatives. They discussed bribes and intimidation tactics to force landowners to sell." Silas added his testimony about the systematic harassment he and Sarah May had endured. The sabotage, theft, and destruction of property were all connected to Maud's desperate attempts to fulfill her illegal contracts. "She couldn't deliver my land legally," Sarah May explained, "so she tried to drive me away through criminal means." Sheriff Morrison examined each piece of evidence carefully. The paper trail was comprehensive and damning. Bank records, correspondence, mining contracts, and witness testimony painted a clear picture of corruption and fraud. Maud made one final attempt to save herself. "Even if these allegations were true, this community needs development. The mining operations would bring jobs and prosperity." "At what cost?" Sarah May replied. "Poisoned water? Destroyed farmland? The complete elimination of the life we've built here?" She unrolled a detailed map showing the environmental impact of the proposed mining operations. Chemical runoff would contaminate streams for decades. Strip mining would leave permanent scars across the landscape. The pastoral valley would become an industrial wasteland. "My father died trying to protect this place," Sarah May said. "I won't let his sacrifice be meaningless." The crowd's mood shifted decisively against Maud. Farmers realized their land would be worthless after mining contamination. Business owners understood that industrial development would destroy the community they had built. Sheriff Morrison arrested Maud on charges of embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. Her empire of corruption collapsed in a single afternoon. The mining contracts were nullified due to her criminal activities. Sarah May worked with community leaders to establish new water-sharing agreements that benefited everyone. Her irrigation innovations increased crop yields throughout the valley. The agricultural cooperation she pioneered became a model for other communities. The integration school she built on her land attracted students from across the territory. Education became available to children regardless of their background or circumstances. Knowledge replaced prejudice as the foundation for community progress. Silas and Sarah May's partnership evolved into a thriving agricultural enterprise. Their success inspired other innovative collaborations that broke down traditional social barriers. Merit and character became more important than appearance or ancestry. Tommy documented the entire story for the territorial newspaper. His detailed account ensured that future generations would understand how courage and truth had triumphed over corruption and hatred. Years later, Copper Ridge was known throughout Wyoming as a community where anyone could succeed through hard work and determination. Sarah May's transformation from mocked outsider to respected leader proved that dignity and intelligence could overcome any obstacle. The town that had once laughed at a young black woman now celebrated her as their founder and protector. Justice had prevailed through truth rather than violence, creating lasting change that benefited everyone.